Chapter 19. Then Pilate therefore took Jesus, and scourged him. And the soldiers, having plaited a crown of thorns, put it on his head, and put a purple robe on him, and came to him and said, Hail, King of the Jews! And gave him blows on the face. And Pilate went out again, and says to them, Lo, I bring him out to you, that ye may know that I find in him no fault whatever. Jesus therefore went forth without, bearing the crown of thorn and the purple robe. And he says to them, Behold the man. When therefore the chief priests and the officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify, crucify him. Pilate says to them, Take him ye, and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and according to our law he ought to die, because he made himself Son of God. When Pilate therefore heard this word, he was the rather afraid, and went into the praetorium again, and says to Jesus, Whence art thou? But Jesus gave him no answer. Pilate therefore says to him, Speakest thou not to me? Dost thou not know that I have authority to release thee, and have authority to crucify thee? Jesus answered, Thou hast no authority whatever against me, if it were not given to thee from above. On this account he that has delivered me up to thee has the greater sin. From this time Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, saying, If thou releasest this man, thou art not a friend to Caesar. Every one making himself a king speaks against Caesar. Pilate therefore, having heard these words, led Jesus out, and sat down upon the judgment seat at a place called Pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now it was the preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. And he says to the Jews, Behold your king. But they cried out, Take him away, crucify him. Pilate says to them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar. Then therefore he delivered him up to them, that he might be crucified. And they took Jesus and led him away. Verse 17. And he went out, bearing his cross, to the place called Place of a Skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, where they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on this side and one on that, and Jesus in the middle. And Pilate wrote a title also, and put it on the cross. But there was written, Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews. This title therefore many of the Jews read, for the place of the city where Jesus was crucified was near. And it was written in Hebrew, Greek, Latin. The chief priests of the Jews therefore said to Pilate, Do not write the King of the Jews, but that he said, I am King of the Jews. Pilate answered, What I have written, I have written. The soldiers therefore, when they had crucified Jesus, took his clothes and made 4 parts, to each soldier a part, and the body coat. But the body coat was seamless, woven through the hole from the top. They said therefore to one another, Let us not rend it, but let us cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which says, They parted my garments among themselves, and on my vesture they cast lots. The soldiers therefore did these things. Verse 25. And by the cross of Jesus stood his mother, and the sister of his mother, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. Jesus therefore, seeing his mother, and the disciple standing by, whom he loved, says to his mother, Woman, behold thy son. Then he says unto the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour the disciple took her to his own home. After this, Jesus, knowing that all things were now finished, that the scripture might be fulfilled, says, I thirst. There was a vessel therefore there full of vinegar, and having filled a sponge with vinegar, and putting hyssop round it, they put it up to his mouth. When therefore Jesus had received the vinegar, he said, It is finished. And having bowed his head, he delivered up his spirit. The Jews, therefore, that the bodies might not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for it was the preparation, for the day of that Sabbath was a great day, demanded of Pilate that their legs might be broken and they taken away. The soldiers therefore came and broke the legs of the first and of the other that had been crucified with him. But coming to Jesus, when they saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs, but one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and immediately there came out blood and water. And he who saw it bears witness, and his witness is true, and he knows that he says true, that ye also may believe. For these things took place, that the scripture might be fulfilled, not a bone of him shall be broken. And again, another scripture says, They shall look on him whom they pierced. Verse 38. And after these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, but secretly through fear of the Jews, demanded of Pilate that he might take the body of Jesus, and Pilate allowed it. He came therefore and took away the body of Jesus. And Nicodemus also, who at first came to Jesus by night, came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds weight. They took therefore the body of Jesus, and bound it up in linen with the spices, as it is the custom with the Jews to prepare for burial. But there was in the place where he had been crucified a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, in which no one had ever been laid. There therefore, on account of the preparation of the Jews, because the tomb was near, they laid Jesus.